Marble material in Corona renderer. So let's just drag Corona physical material, double click, increase the size of the thumbnail. And we're gonna start by putting 0.5 roughness. We're gonna increase the IOR to 1.7. Sorry, 1.7. If I can type, there we go. And then we need a marble texture, which should be a JPEG format. It should be seamless if you can find one. So just drag and drop into the material editor, the JPEG, expand it by double clicking it. And then usually what I like to do is put a color correction just in case we want to change some tones later on. We plug in here in the base, and I'm just gonna apply on the dummy ball and just press interactive rendering. And let's just increase the glossiness a tiny bit more by 4.5. So if you put 0, it will be perfectly glossy. It's gonna be like a mirror, right? If you will put, as you can see, it's reflecting the planes and everything else here. If you're gonna put 1, I wouldn't recommend putting 1, of course. I would say if you wanted glossy, 0.1, usually from to 0.8 or 0.75 or 0.75 for the most matty look. But usually let's try 0.5 now. And so ideally, majority of the times, how you're going to be creating marble material and architectural visualization is basically this. You're going to have your diffuse map, you're going to have your color corrections just in case you will want to tone it down, right? So I'm going to go advanced 80 RGB or 70, even you can even invert it, whatever you want to do here, right? So I'm going to back to like 85 maybe. And this is roughly how you're going to be creating marble materials. Very simple. This is cheap to render as well because you're not doing anything on the material itself. Now, if you want to go a little bit more expensive and more complex, I'm just going to shift, drag, and copy this and apply onto my ball. There we go. And now I'm going to go to this material here and we're going to go down to media options, and then we're gonna go subsurface scattering. So whenever I'm gonna press 1 here, you're gonna see some subsurface scattering going, especially on this edge here, on this corner, right? So if I'm gonna press 1, you will start seeing here a translucent or subsurface scattering effect, as you can see here, right? So if I'm going to increase this to 3 centimeters, now remember this, that my dummy ball is at a certain size. As I remember, it's like 50 centimeters or 1 meter. I can't remember, right? But basically, if you have an object that is very, very tiny, very small, like let's just say a centimeter. So, 3 centimeters is going to be way too much, right? You're going to have to go 0.1 or something like that. I work in centimeters, as you can see here, unit centimeters, and system setup, system unit scale centimeters as well. And this is for the display, right? So centimeters, centimeters. And this ball is, like I said, it's almost around 1 meter or something like that. So if I'm going to put this to 5, as you can see, it will increase this even more, right? And you can see the result here. So this effect here, it's the most realistic result which you can get with marble, but this is a lot more expensive to render because obviously the subsurface scattering calculation is happening, right? So now this color is a little bit too harsh. I'm gonna go to something more, a little bit more yellowish and a little bit more in between white and yellow here, something like that. There we go. So obviously play around with the colors. You can get some subsurface scattering color, which is going to be a little bit more purpley, as you can see here, right? If I'm going to increase this, as you can see, it creates this kind of like a halo effect, right? So green. There you go. So you can get weird effects, right? But my recommendation would be to use some kind of a warmish color, something towards warmish and yellow color. There we go. Maybe a little bit more intense, something like that. There we go. There we go. Something a little bit more to the warmish side, right? I'm going to increase this number to decrease this number to 3 centimeters. There we go. And if you want to put a little bit of glossiness or a lacquer effect on top of the marble, let's just say you are creating a, I don't know, a kitchen worktop, right? So I'm going to zoom out, and then I'm going to go to clear coat layer, and you can put this to 1. So basically what is going to replicate, it's kind of like a reflective film on top, like you would spill some lacquer, it will dry, and it will be reflective layer on top, right? So I'm going to put 1, and you will start seeing some sharp reflections going on there, right? There, as you can see. And as you can see, this guy here is appearing a very sharp reflection here, right? And as you can see, it's becoming more. So basically what's happening, you have your kind of like in between matte roughness, right? Then we are using subsurface scattering by 3 centimeters, amount 1. So if amount, you're gonna put this to if you're gonna put like 0, this effect will disappear, as you can see, right? If you're gonna put 0.5, you know, it's gonna increase halfway. But usually I like to experiment from 0.7 to 1, right? So in this case, I'm gonna put 1, right? Full effect. There we go. Now, do experiment with this radius number. It depends what you want to get, but usually marbles are not scattering the light so deep. Usually it's very subtle. It depends obviously from the marble material, but this is roughly what you're gonna get. So this is the cheaper version. So cheaper to render, very quick to set up, right? You don't really necessarily need bump maps in the marble unless you have some kind of like a specific stone material. You could potentially drag this and drop into the bump map, into the bump slot, but I wouldn't recommend doing that. Usually if you're rendering even 5 or 6K still CGIs, this is perfectly fine. And in animations, usually you're not going to even notice it. But if you want something a little bit more realistic, I would go with subsurface scattering and a little bit of clear coat. Now for the clear coat, you can use different settings here. I usually put 0.7 or something like that, just to give a little bit of this shiny effect on top. But of course, it depends from the material attribute. So yeah, that's pretty much for the marble material, using the simple method and the more expensive method, which is using the subsurface scattering mode there.